Asha Mehra had spent years dreaming of this day, her wedding in Toronto, surrounded by family, friends, and the man she loved. Every detail had been meticulously planned, from the sparkling lehenga she would wear to the vibrant flowers that decorated the hall. But standing quietly by her side, smiling and offering help, was Priya Kapoor, Asha's best friend since childhood. Nobody suspected that beneath Priya's calm exterior simmered a dangerous envy, a jealousy so intense it had been growing silently for years. As the celebration reached its peak, that envy would explode in the most shocking way imaginable, turning what should have been the happiest day of Asha's life into a nightmare of betrayal, poison, and murder. Asha Mehra woke up on the morning of her wedding with a sense of excitement that seemed to fill every corner of her Toronto apartment. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow on the neatly arranged wedding outfits and delicate floral decorations that had been carefully prepared for weeks. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, the day she would marry the man she had loved for years and celebrate surrounded by family and friends. Her parents had spared no effort in creating a perfect celebration, blending traditional Indian customs with modern Canadian elegance. The scent of jasmine and roses filled the air, mingling with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee as Asha's mind raced with anticipation. Among the dozens of guests who would soon arrive, one person stood out in Asha's mind: Priya Kapoor, her best friend since childhood. Priya had been with Asha through every milestone, every heartbreak, and every success. From the outside, their friendship appeared inseparable, a bond unbreakable by time or circumstance. But beneath Priya's polite smiles and cheerful presence, there was an undercurrent of envy that Asha had never noticed. Priya had always admired Asha, yet sometimes that admiration seemed tinged with something darker, a quiet resentment that simmered beneath the surface. As the wedding ceremony began, Asha felt a mixture of joy and nervousness. Her designer lehenga shimmered under the soft sunlight filtering through the windows, intricate embroidery catching every glance. The laughter of family members, the excited chatter of friends, and the gentle music of traditional instruments created an atmosphere of celebration. Guests marveled at the beauty of the decorations, the elegance of the tables, and the meticulous planning that had made this day seem almost magical. Everyone assumed it was a perfect wedding, a day free of worry or harm. Yet, in the midst of all this happiness, no one suspected that hidden beneath. Priya Kapoor had always been in Asha's shadow, and though she tried to mask it with smiles and encouragement, envy had taken root deep inside her. While Asha seemed to effortlessly achieve everything she desired, a successful career, a loving fiancé, a wide circle of friends, Priya struggled to find the same recognition and happiness. Over the years, small disappointments had accumulated into a quiet resentment, a feeling that life had unfairly favored her best friend. She watched silently as Asha excelled in every aspect, pretending to be supportive while secretly comparing every achievement to her own shortcomings. The wedding had become the ultimate trigger. Seeing Asha glowing in her bridal attire, showered with admiration, Priya felt a sharp pang of jealousy that she could no longer contain. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Priya began planning her subtle takeover of the celebration. She volunteered for tasks that seemed innocent at first, arranging the floral decorations, coordinating the guest seating, even managing the small details of the wedding drinks and catering. Each responsibility gave her a chance to influence events without raising suspicion. Priya's outward demeanor remained friendly and helpful, but internally, she was calculating. Every glance at Asha's radiant smile and every compliment that Asha received felt like a personal slight, fueling an obsession that had quietly grown over years. Priya's envy was not impulsive. It was methodical. She spent hours researching and observing, noting moments when Asha was distracted or tired. She imagined scenarios where she could finally assert control over the one thing Asha cherished most: her happiness on the wedding day. This was not just jealousy. It had transformed into something dangerous, a silent determination to seize power in the most extreme way. While everyone else saw a devoted friend, the truth was far darker. Beneath Priya's polite exterior, resentment and obsession had reached a point. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Priya's outward friendliness masked a growing obsession that consumed her every thought. She had always been meticulous, and now her meticulousness served a darker purpose. Every detail of the wedding became a potential tool she could manipulate. Every responsibility she took on a chance to gain control over the day. She volunteered to handle the drinks, claiming she wanted to help the caterers and make sure everything went smoothly. In reality, she was carefully observing, noting who would serve what, and identifying exactly when Asha would be most vulnerable. Even minor things like arranging seating or coordinating the timing of the ceremony gave her opportunities to create small disruptions that nobody would notice at first. Priya had also spent time researching ways to harm someone without immediate detection. She studied subtle methods, poison that could be slipped into a drink, and the effects it would have. She was patient, waiting for the right moment when the chaos of celebration would mask her actions. She calculated every possible outcome, from the immediate reaction of guests to the potential arrival of paramedics. Nothing was left to chance. Priya's mind was consumed by an obsession that had grown from years of envy into a meticulously detailed plan of betrayal. Even as she carried out her tasks, Priya maintained the image of the supportive friend. She smiled, offered help, and complimented Asha endlessly. Nobody suspected that behind her calm and cheerful exterior was a person plotting the ultimate act of jealousy. Priya's thoughts were singularly focused. She would not allow Asha's perfect moment to remain unchallenged. The wedding, a symbol of Asha's happiness and success, had become for Priya a stage for her dark intentions. Every decision, every seemingly innocent gesture, was carefully orchestrated to bring her plan closer to fruition. Beneath the laughter, music, and festive celebration, the wedding day arrived with an air of perfection, every detail carefully arranged, and every guest excited to witness Asha's dream come true. The sun shone brightly over the Toronto venue, casting warm light on vibrant flowers and gleaming decorations. Family members bustled around, checking last-minute arrangements, while friends laughed and posed for photos, capturing memories that were meant to last a lifetime. Asha moved gracefully through the crowd, radiant in her heavily embroidered lehenga, her excitement mingling with nerves. Every glance she received, every compliment, seemed to confirm that this was the happiest day of her life. Priya stayed close, as she had planned, always within sight of Asha, but never drawing attention to herself. She observed every interaction with quiet calculation, taking note of moments when Asha was distracted, tired, or vulnerable. The laughter and celebration around them contrasted sharply with Priya's inner storm. She had spent weeks planning this day, and now it was unfolding exactly as she had envisioned. Every task she had taken on, arranging flowers, coordinating drinks, checking schedules, gave her subtle control over the flow of the event. Her outward demeanor was flawless, warm, and supportive, yet beneath that friendly exterior, her obsession simmered, waiting for the right moment to act. As the ceremony progressed, the tension in Priya's mind grew. She watched as Asha interacted with her fiancé, exchanged smiles with family members, and shared joyous moments with friends. Each happy interaction fueled Priya's envy and sharpened her resolve. She had convinced herself that this was the only way to reclaim attention, to assert power in a life that had always felt overshadowed. The celebration was reaching its peak, with music swelling, guests cheering, and photographers capturing every radiant smile. Priya knew the moment of opportunity was approaching. The energy of the crowd, the chaos of the celebration, and Asha's on. As the evening festivities reached their peak, the atmosphere of the wedding was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. Guests moved between tables, exchanging congratulations and taking photos, completely unaware that danger lurked so close. Priya had positioned herself near the drinks table, her movements casual and unnoticed. For weeks, she had prepared for this exact moment, and now the culmination of her envy and obsession was within reach. Every smile she gave, every compliment she offered to Asha, concealed the cold calculation beneath. When Asha reached for a glass of champagne offered by Priya, the bride had no reason to suspect anything amiss. Priya's hand had carefully selected the exact drink, one she had tampered with in advance. The liquid looked identical to the others, sparkling and inviting, yet it carried a silent, deadly threat. Asha raised the glass in celebration, laughing at a joke from a friend, and took a sip. Within minutes, subtle changes began to appear. Her smile faltered, and a sudden wave of dizziness swept over her. She tried to steady herself, leaning lightly against Priya for support. Guests initially assumed the discomfort was from nerves, too much excitement, or perhaps exhaustion. But the situation escalated rapidly. Asha's movements became unsteady, her face pale, and a sudden weakness forced her to collapse into the nearest chair. Panic rippled through the room as friends and family rushed to her side. Priya's reactions were carefully measured, concerned, attentive, and seemingly helpful. She guided Asha gently, keeping her poised in the chair while the chaos unfolded around them. In those crucial moments, Priya's facade of friendship hid the fact that she had caused the collapse herself. The joyous celebration transformed into a scene of confusion and fear. Guests called for help, paramedics were summoned, and the realization that something was horribly wrong began to take hold. The room was plunged into chaos as paramedics arrived, rushing to stabilize Asha while guests hovered in panic. The laughter and music of the wedding had vanished, replaced by frantic whispers and fearful glances. Family members clutched one another, shocked that such a tragedy could occur at what was supposed to be a day of celebration. Friends sobbed quietly, struggling to comprehend the sudden collapse of the bride. Priya, maintaining her composed exterior, moved among the crowd with calculated care, offering help, calling for support, and directing attention as if she were merely another concerned guest. Her performance was flawless, so convincing that even the closest family members initially trusted her actions. Despite the chaos, the paramedics quickly realized that Asha's condition was not due to fatigue or stress. Signs of poisoning became apparent, prompting them to alert the authorities. Police officers arrived within minutes, sealing the area and beginning to question witnesses. Guests were instructed to remain calm while detectives examined the scene, and suspicions began to surface, though no one could yet imagine that a trusted friend could be responsible. The cheerful energy of the wedding was replaced by a tense, unsettling silence as investigators gathered evidence and carefully documented every detail. Authorities began scrutinizing every movement and interaction leading up to Asha's collapse. They interviewed family members, the catering staff, and guests, piecing together the timeline. It quickly became clear that someone had intentionally tampered with the bride's drink. Priya's presence near the drinks table and her insistence on handling key tasks drew the investigators' attention. Small inconsistencies in her statements, subtle details remembered by attentive vendors, and surveillance footage from the venue painted an increasingly troubling picture. Detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the events that had led to Asha's sudden collapse. Every detail, no matter how small, was scrutinized. Surveillance cameras from the venue revealed Priya lingering near the drinks table just moments before Asha's fatal sip. Vendors recalled her insistence on arranging the beverages herself, a request that had seemed polite at the time but now appeared suspicious. Investigators began examining her movements, noticing patterns that hinted at careful planning rather than coincidence. Her proximity to the bride during the critical moments was no longer just an innocent presence. It was part of a calculated strategy. Phone records and digital searches revealed chilling insights into Priya's state of mind. Weeks before the wedding, she had researched substances that could incapacitate someone without immediate detection. She had looked up the effects of poisoning, possible symptoms, and even timelines for emergency response. The evidence painted a clear picture. Priya's jealousy had escalated into methodical, premeditated action. Detectives discovered that she had obtained a small amount of a lethal substance, enough to harm Asha without drawing immediate suspicion. Every action she had taken in the days leading up to the wedding, the handling of drinks, the coordination of tasks, and her constant presence near Asha, was part of a meticulously orchestrated plan. Friends and family were stunned as the investigation progressed. Nobody could believe that the woman who had been Asha's closest confidant could harbor such dangerous intent. The betrayal cut deep, leaving loved ones questioning every interaction, every smile, and every gesture from someone they had trusted implicitly. Court experts later confirmed that Priya's actions were deliberate and calculated, not impulsive or emotional. Her envy, which had quietly grown over years, had finally manifested in a cold, lethal act. Priya Kapoor's arrest sent shockwaves through Asha's family, friends, and the wider community. The woman who had once been a trusted confidant was now a defendant in a murder case. As the trial began, the courtroom was filled with grief, disbelief, and tension. Photographs of Asha in her wedding attire, smiling and radiant, were displayed as evidence of the life that had been abruptly stolen. Witnesses recounted the events of that day, describing Priya's movements, her proximity to Asha, and the small but critical details that had seemed harmless at the time. The prosecution presented the meticulous planning Priya had undertaken, her online searches, purchases, and subtle manipulations of the wedding day, all proving premeditation and intent. During the proceedings, Priya maintained a calm demeanor, often appearing composed and emotionless. Her behavior only deepened the horror of the case for the family and the public. Experts testified about the psychology of envy and obsession, explaining how Priya's long-standing jealousy had escalated into a carefully executed plan of murder. The courtroom listened in disbelief as the layers of her calculated betrayal were revealed, showing that this was not a crime of passion, but a cold, methodical act. The verdict was delivered after days of testimony, evidence review, and deliberation. Priya Kapoor was found guilty of first-degree murder. Sentencing reflected the severity of her crime, ensuring she would face the consequences of her actions. For Asha's family, the judgment brought a measure of closure, but the pain of losing their beloved daughter and sister on the happiest day of her life could never fully fade. The story of Asha's death became a chilling reminder that sometimes the people closest to us can harbor the darkest intentions. Her life, cut tragically short, continues to be remembered by those who loved her.